accountability at all times. Now, here's the situation right now. We're out on the side of the road. There are these DNR cops. We drove by like 45 minutes ago, went to the store, and like 30 minutes later, we came back, and they still had this guy in a pickup truck stopped on the side of the road, okay? Here's these DNR guys. Now, here's what we did. We watched for a minute. They were sitting in their car, so I very carefully, with like hands up, approached and got them out of their car, right? And said, hey, what's the deal? Why is the DNR? Why is state park rangers, because that's what their size on the side of the sign on the car, park ranger on a state highway is stopping people. I don't like that. The sheriff should be doing that. Now, yes, we say, oh, they're certified law enforcement in the state. That's not the point. The point is, do you want your park rangers, who are supposed to be managing your recreation sites, out treating you like army men on the side of the road? Well, that's exactly what these guys did. And I've been recording for a while. I didn't start live streaming initially because I didn't know if we'd get signal. So we got the other camera recording, and I'll post the encounter to YouTube later. But here's what happened. The DNR guy gets out of his car and immediately tries to be hostile. You need to go back to your vehicle. So I just kind of moved back toward the car, and I got in, because that's a bit of a protective shield, right? Okay? So the DNR guy, hand on his gun. They're like coming back, checking out the car. They're trying to be intimidating and threatening. These guys are wearing like kind of khaki camo, like they're some kind of military contractor types, right? They've had this guy up in the pickup stopped for like an hour now. And so at one point, the guy in the pickup got out, and he's like, and I could hear him a little bit, not super clearly, but he's like, why am I being held? What, do you have something on me? Now, they of course won't answer the question of why they're holding him. Oh, this is an investigation. We're doing a criminal investigation. So this guy comes back, shining lights in my eyes. Then he's telling me I'm not allowed to be behind him. I have to move, or I'm going to face the consequences. And so he's like, well, you have to move, or I'm going to call the sheriff. And I'm like, good, call the sheriff. I want you to call the sheriff. Okay, so the sheriff shows up. Now I got 2 sheriff deputies out here. So first mission accomplished, right? Here comes a tow truck pulling up too. First mission is accomplished. At least we got sheriffs out here. Now, I realize we're having a hard time finding any sheriffs that'll uphold their oath either, but at least they're a duly elected peacekeeping authority. Okay? Not park rangers. These guys are acting like they're tough bugs, right? Oh man, we're tough. We're park rangers. You better get out of our way. Can you imagine? And I asked the sheriff this. I'll post the video later. I asked the sheriff if he comes up, what would you do? I said, if I walked up to you with a gun on my hand on a gun, you would kill me. Or at least a lot of officers would. Okay? So now I sent the sheriff up. I told the sheriff, you need to go check on these guys. I want you to go make sure this is legit. They've been holding him for a long time. Make sure the oath's being upheld. I want you to go check on him. And I said to the sheriff, if you don't go check on him, I'm going to. And he said, well, I wouldn't suggest that. And I said, well, I don't need to if you do it, providing the sheriff is doing his job. Now, we're in Utah, by the way. We're up near, what's the name of this town up here?
Heber.
Up near Heber. Okay, so it's kind of a recreation kind of area. Let's switch this around. Hang on. All right, so now the sheriff looks like he's up at this guy's truck. They got a tow truck. So they're probably wanting to haul this guy away for something. Now, of course, they're saying, oh, well, the DNR has law enforcement authority. Not actually, because you don't get to make up law enforcement authority just because somebody went to a state school, okay? A park ranger should not be on the side of the road pulling people over. I don't care what your statutes say. We are supposed to have a duly elected sheriff defending the Constitution and people's rights from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Period. That's what everybody should be under. Now, if the sheriff has people that are directly operating under him, okay, maybe, how far do we take this, right? The point is we stop, we ask questions, we hold them accountable. This guy's trying to intimidate me into moving. You can park in front of me, he says. And I say, no, I'm not parking in front of you. I want to see what you're doing. I'm watching you. I'm here to keep an eye on you. See, if everyone would just start calling things out, not with aggression and hostility, but just loving your neighbor, watching out for him, making sure somebody's not being abused, and calling out these weaselly little army guys that think they're tough cops up here when they should be out patrolling their campground, making sure that nobody's burning the state park down, right? Why on earth do we have these extorters, these harassers and collectors, these people pretending to be law enforcement? All right, around.
The guy that was in the truck is just standing out here by the fence.
No, it looks like the guy that's in the truck. They're arrested. So no doubt, this is probably most likely some shenanigan made-up crime, but at least we got sheriff out here. We've raised the level of accountability now. Now we've got the sheriff, and here he comes. So I'm actually going to find out what's going on. What's the story? Sheriff? See, now he's ignoring me, right? I'm not allowed to ask questions. Now look, I'll stand your ground, but do be careful. There's a reason I went back to the truck, right? You don't want to give them cause to say you're interfering or something like that. Even though charges are almost universally bogus, and the courts, like what we're seeing in Oregon and in North Dakota and everywhere, are totally a sham, still, you got to watch your step. Because we're dealing with gangs of people that do kill people for no reason. Sheriff.
What?
Huh?
Just grabbing a flashlight.
I got some questions. Now it looks like we got another sheriff back there. Right. Just grabbing his flashlight. See, you seen a pattern as I do stops, and you all need to start doing these. Look, you don't always have to get out of your car. You don't have to approach them. Sometimes you can park across the road over there and just watch from across the road so that, you know, they really can't even try and say, oh, you're intimidating us, right? So, and no, at this time, nobody said I'm being detained. I would leave right now if I wanted to, but I want to know what they're doing to this guy. I want them to be held accountable. I want them to know we're watching. We've got to start watching. Civil disobedience actually starts with watching, because when you simply watch a corrupt government, they tell you to stop, and you say, no, I'm going to watch you. Think about that. We live in a country where they treat you as a criminal for just watching, for checking up, for saying, hey, I want to make sure everything's okay, right? Now imagine if you walked up to Andy Griffith and you're like, Andy, why are you arresting him, right? Is everything okay? Do you think Andy Griffith would like kick you in the head or shoot you? Probably not. See, we have public servants, but they no longer act like public servants, friends. We have judges. We have judges that act like treasonous terrorists. Now, if I'm cutting out, I can't really help it, but we do have alternate camera running, okay? So we can post that later. We got 2 cameras, actually we got 3 cameras rolling at the moment. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, I'm not going to approach now. See, the more officers they get, this is what they like to do. We actually dealt with this last night. They were just officers stopping and talking to a guy, right? Because apparently he was missing, and they were talking to him. He was reported missing. In the end, he just walked away. Apparently, he didn't think he was missing. But soon you have 4 or 5 officers. You have all these guys. You have ambulance. You have fire engine. All this stuff going on. All these tough guys. And they treat you like dirt for questioning them. That's not acceptable. Here's... Now this is DNR guy in front of me. On his left is the sheriff. Listen, guys, it's not enough that I do this. This has to be the norm. We have to start stopping. We know our so-called law enforcement is not actually enforcing the law much of the time. They are violating it. We have to raise the standard. We have to be bold. We have to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Let's get a charger on your phone here so we don't have a problem. Okay. Hang on, guys. So this is why live streams can be long and arduous, because the time when you're just sitting here and nothing's happening, you're just sitting here and nothing's happening.
Yes, they're all on this side hiding.
They're hiding over there. See, they're trying to stay away from my cameras. No one wants to be accountable. State park guys want to run around pretending they're police. Sheriffs want to all back each other up, right? They're all the blue lines, the blue lines. The blue line is treason. That's what the blue line is. Now, does it mean that blue lives don't matter? No, all lives matter. That's not what it's about. It's not about hate. It's about love. But the blue line is a faction. The blue line is a criminal gang that says we can do what we want because we got lots of buddies to back us up. That's the blue line. I want law enforcement. I want oath keepers. But since our law enforcement declines to be law enforcement, then we have to step up. My kids are just fine, guys. I'm an herbalist, and they're just fine. Don't you worry about it. It's that time of year where little coughs are going around, but they're doing good, and they learn a lot. It's not that I go out looking for these kind of things with kids in the car, but you can't not stand up for liberty just because you have kids with you. Isn't that right, Cyrus?
Stand for freedom.
That's right. Stand for freedom. Be principled. Be peaceful. Love your neighbor. Seeing anything going on there, babe?
All I can see is a guy in a plainclothes that I'm guessing I thought was the driver. Maybe it's a friend or something. And then a cop or sheriff or whatever up there, and they're kind of just standing around. I can't see much beyond that.
See, now they're searching this guy's vehicle. And so, what do you want to wait? Like, what if we could guess, right? Do you think this guy would have been left in his truck if there was a real crime committed, if there was a real victim? No, I would say this has to do with a hunting violation, maybe. Maybe he used the wrong kind of ammo or something dastardly like that. Maybe he has the wrong kind of plant in his vehicle, and that's illegal. See, it could be any number of things. And what do they always do? Oh, we can't tell you what it is. Really? You can't tell me why you're accosting someone? Because I think our police better start telling us why they're harassing and collecting and detaining and abusing and beating and killing. I think we better start demanding of our police why they kill more civilians on the side of the road than we lose in all of our wars. Most of which we shouldn't even be engaged to. And yeah, DNR is the Utah State Department of Natural Resources. The car up there, it's in the earlier video. The car up there, it says DNR State Park Ranger. These guys are these are park rangers, guys. These guys are mall cops for the state park, out acting like army men, pulling people over on the side of a state highway. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. At some point, there's only so much you can do, right? Because you could get arrested in every single one of these encounters by really pushing it. So sometimes the best you can do is you can shed light on it. Just by having a camera there, they'll behave differently. Okay? Just by calling the sheriff out here, now we have a little more level of accountability. Because now we have elected delegates out here from the elected county sheriff. So we're raising the accountability. Now they can't just say, oh, DNR did this. Now the sheriff has to be accountable for what goes on down here. We've brought him in to the accountability. Folks, your government, your police, they're out of control. They're out here saying, we got to do this to protect you, right? If they were protecting us, they'd be stopping the judges. They'd be stopping the politicians. They'd be stopping the murder from the unborn to the aged. If these guys were honoring their oath and protecting America and freedom and liberty, they would be standing up for what's right.
Potato, chew your food before you swallow it.
That's why
Now, I'm tempted to move up here, but I want to be careful. The more officers you have, the more they give themselves the impression that something really big is happening. Even if they're just harassing somebody. They want to have the impression that they're really big stuff. What town we on?
Heber.
Titus, slow down drinking your water, buddy. So, yeah, if you're in Heber, you can come on out here. We can get a few more people out here. You know, you get 5 or 6 people out here watching these officers. Now they're going to say, what's going on? Why are people watching us? Because we should. We all should. Now, does that mean I stop every time I see a police officer with somebody pulled over? No, it's not feasible all the time. But when I see something that seems a little weird, when it doesn't set well, when something seems off, or when I have the opportunity, I'll stop. And I'll just say, what's going on? A lot of times I don't even approach the officers. They approach me and try and intimidate me. See, I can't fix this. Your fake candidates for office certainly aren't going to fix this. We've got to take up our courage. We need to get on our knees before God and find our courage, and then we need to stand up boldly on our feet before these vicious tyrants that are running our country. Why? Why is a state park ranger out on the side of the road intimidating, playing army, putting his hand on his gun when I try and ask him a question? Why are they out here? Why are they out here stopping people? Why isn't the sheriff doing his job? The sheriff says, oh, they can do this, right? That's the problem. The sheriff shouldn't be saying that. The sheriff should be telling these guys, what do you think you're doing out here? You know, unless there's a really serious crime that you're needed on, you don't be stopping people outside of your jurisdiction. That could be a killer in that vehicle, somebody says. You're right. Any of these police officers could be killers because police officers kill a massive amount of people on the roads. And my life, when I approach them, is most definitely in danger. Now, my kids, I think, are pretty safe. You know, they're staying in the car. And, you know, that's why I approach slowly and cautiously. But is the guy in the vehicle a killer? No, because he wouldn't have been sitting there for 45 minutes. If this was a killer sort of crime, if he was in a gunfight, he wouldn't have just been sitting in his truck, getting out and talking to the guys, right? So the only people at this point that I'm worried about being killers are these guys that are threatening my life by putting their hand on their gun as they approach me. Things that I would be arrested for or perhaps even killed for if I did the same. So the ones who could be killers out here right now are these guys with the flashing red and blue lights. They're a gang. They're running in a pack. And much of the time, they're taking advantage of people. Does it mean they never, ever do good or never, ever stop bad people? No. It's not what it means. It means they don't honor their oath. Look, guys, sometimes even a mobster does good. Everything he does, you know, the worst criminal in the world might give a dinner to a starving man. That doesn't mean he's the hero. So we're just going to wait here for a few minutes. I'm glad the live stream's working. And what can we do, guys? What can we do? Usually I'm out here alone. See, the truth is, you guys aren't doing this. I hate to say it, but almost none of you are doing this. You keep saying, yeah, Gavin, you're right. You need to be doing this. You've got to start stretching yourself. You've got to start stopping and questioning authority. You can take it slow. You know, you can start by just filming police or questioning your city council, right? But you've got to start standing up. We've got to start resisting the treason with principle and peace and love for neighbor. That's what we got to do. I think, don't worry, the kids I think are fine on this busy road. We're pulled well off the road, and now I've got 2 cops in front of me and 2 behind me. So if somebody swerves, they're not going to be hitting my truck first. But listen, you know, they're always going to make it about the children. We shouldn't do this with children. Yes, you should. You should show your children how to stand up. Liberty doesn't wait for your children to not be with you guys. We've got to start showing our children what it means to stand up for freedom instead of just pageantry and waving a flag and checking a box on a white sheet of paper that pretends we're fixing America. So at the moment, here, let me flip the camera. At the moment, these guys are just out here still, and it looks to me like they're searching this guy's vehicle. They got a tow truck up there now, DNR guy, tough guy out there. He's got like camo pants and everything. It's like these guys really are playing army even more so than the sheriff. Okay, so now you got the sheriffs out there. They're apparently talking to the person inside the vehicle. And I don't know if they've handcuffed somebody yet or if they're still just talking to him. Started with these 2 DNR, these state park rangers, having somebody stopped on the side of the road. We passed them once, came back like half hour, 45 minutes later, and they still had this guy detained on the side of the road, which is not okay. And now we've been going, yeah, for like 40 minutes. And big scenario. You know what I found? People always narrative, right? They always give me this narrative. Oh, something really bad could be happening. These guys might be saving children, right? They might be stopping baby killers. Oh, you mean like the Supreme Court and the judges and the government who demands that millions of babies be killed here? No, that's not what they're talking about. They're actually not talking about anything. In fact, I don't think I've ever had an encounter with a police officer where they were stopping someone for a real crime. Because if they were dealing with a real violent criminal, the pattern of behavior would be completely different. You know, somebody would be fighting with them or be carrying off with someone's purse or something like that. That's not the kind of guys these police really want to interact with. They want to interact with normal Joe Blows. Now here's Park Ranger. He's moving. Okay, one of these guys is taking off. So now we're down to one Park Ranger and two sheriffs. Maybe if we can get rid of the park rangers, you know, I mean, these sheriffs clearly should, but maybe if we can get rid of the park rangers, we can de-escalate this thing a little bit here. Now here comes one of the sheriffs. Give him a cookie or something.
Give me just 1 second, I'll chat.
All right, thank you. See, so what do you have? You have pulling people over, probably right, Shannon, probably for some BS traffic infraction, and then they're looking. Think about this for a minute. I've been meaning to ask this question. In school, on the playground, anywhere, if you're the person... Hang on, he's coming up. We're going to have a talk here. So, what's the story?
So, everything looks legal to me, so...
In what way? I mean, I see one of these guys left.
Okay.
What's this guy being detained for?
That's something you'd have to talk to them about. Okay?
I tried to talk to them about that, and they didn't, which puts it kind of on you as the sheriff.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Like I told you before, all that information can be obtained through a grammar request.
Right.
Okay?
But that's why I'm asking you. It can also be obtained by you just answering the question.
I can't.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Did this guy harm anybody?
I have no idea. Not that I'm aware of.
So, if there's no victim here, these people have no right to be detaining him.
Well, the state of Utah can be a victim.
No, they can't.
Absolutely.
Do you understand habeas corpus, the 4th, 5th, or 6th Amendments? I mean, have you studied those in depth at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so explain to me how the state can be a victim.
Well, there are state laws that does not require a victim, okay?
Do you understand what a law is?
Traffic laws don't require a victim.
Traffic laws, well, actually, they do, according to the Constitution.
Okay.
Any law that's a crime requires a victim.
I'm not here to argue that with you, okay? I'm here to tell you...
I'm not here to argue. I'm here to hold you guys accountable,
Okay.
and there's
Well,
hundreds of
fine.
people watching right now to also try and hold you
That's
accountable.
fine.
And so what I'm concerned about, what are they doing with this man? Let me ask you that.
He has been detained.
Okay. For how long? Are they
Until
arresting
he bails
him?
out of jail.
So for what crime?
You'd have to get that through a grammar request.
Are you telling me there's a statute that says you can't tell me why this person's being hauled off to
I'm
jail
telling
at the
you-
point of a gun?
I'm telling you that you can obtain all that information.
I asked you
through
a question.
grammar
Is there a
request.
statute?
And I'm answering it.
No, you're not.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Brandon Rose.
Hey, Brandon. So, do you know the name of these state park officers?
One would be Officer Patterson, and the other one I'm not sure his name.
You guys tell the sheriff for us. We don't want mall cops out here patrolling the side of the road. These are not law
And
enforcement.
my next piece of advice would be, if you have an issue, contact your elected officials, being the sheriff and all the other elected officials.
He's being contacted right now through you and also through this video, and so you can pass that on to him. I'm not
And I
here to
will.
pick on you, and I'm glad you
That's
guys showed
fine.
up,
That's
and I'm
fine.
glad you went and checked in on this. But the truth is, unless there's a victim here, you should be arresting these park rangers for detaining this person, not the other way around. Your oath. See, you're to the rolling the eye stage. I deal with this with a lot with officers. You're to the stage where you're saying, well, you know, there's a law. It always goes back to somebody gave me an order. Somebody made a rule. Let me ask you a question, kind of separated from this. At what point, as they keep making rules and laws, at what point, as those laws become more and more immoral, do you say I won't enforce that?
I guess I have to make that judgment as they come out.
Well, they're coming out though. That's the thing. You got the Bundys in jail. You got political prisoners all over the country. You got judges totally out of control, and you got a nation of civil rights that's in chaos. And here we're stopping people on the side of the road for the smallest of human infractions, and saying we're going to punish you. We're going to haul you off to jail. We're going to fine you. Is that what you signed up for?
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You do what you want to with it. Okay. This is just a question. But I have no idea what the laws are that this gentleman's being booked in, okay? But let's say one of those laws is that he doesn't have insurance on that vehicle. And let's say he hits you tonight and kills your family.
Sure.
You're on the hook for it now.
Okay.
That may be a small traffic violation.
No, it's not small at that point because now there's a victim. Prior to that, there was no victim.
Right.
So this goes back to common law.
You're telling me that I should allow that type of stuff to drive down the road and possibly have that happen when I could have just stopped it and dealt with the insurance problem to begin with.
Well, of course, because a law that requires somebody to have insurance is unconstitutional, and you should know that. But let's agree to disagree on that for a moment. You went up and checked on all this, and you don't even know what this guy's being arrested for?
Okay.
Are you serious? Are you serious right now? You're a sheriff of this county. You got somebody being hauled away by park rangers at the point of a gun, and you didn't even bother to see why?
Well, first off, I've never seen a gun be pointed. Second off...
Okay, really? What happens if this guy tries to leave? No, they do not have the same legal jurisdiction. You need to learn what a sheriff means.
State.
No, a sheriff is an elected official.
I'm not here to argue with you, okay?
I'm not here to argue. I'm trying to actually...
You have your views, I have my views.
It's not my
and we'll
views,
deal
it's
with
the
them.
Constitution. Where's our Constitution? Have you read the Constitution recently?
Yep.
Okay, you need to dig deeper into that. The founders said that if somebody's violating this right here, they're the criminal. Alexander Hamilton in Federalist 78 said a law that violates the Constitution is not law, it's void. That means if you're enforcing it, you're a criminal. Then you have the people who've entrusted you guys as the county sheriff to make sure that things are being lawful and that the Constitution's being upheld. And here you've got park rangers harassing and collecting on the side of the road, and you didn't even bother to find out why they're threatening someone's life and taking them away and impeding their motion, their life, their liberty, and their property. So you have a Fourth Amendment violation, first of all. You have an oath violation. You have impending violations of due process because your judges and your courts in this county are violating the Fifth and the Sixth Amendments in every single trial. And if you guys were truly honoring your oath, you'd be arresting those judges. So if you really dug into the Constitution, the problem you have is that you're placing state laws made by politicians above the liberty of your children and the Constitution you swore to protect. You're in a state of cognitive dissonance. What comes first, the state laws or the Constitution to you?
Both.
Can't both come first. One has to be superior.
I'm just telling you. I do the job that I am paid to do.
Okay, so what if that job becomes gassing people in the gas chambers? Then do you keep doing the job you're paid to do?
Like I said, I'll do it until I feel like it's no longer the right thing to do.
So what?
But that's my decision. You have
No, it's not your decision. There's right and wrong. There's law.
I can go in any day I want to.
Sure, you can become a criminal if you want, but it's not your decision what's right and wrong. If someone's being violated according to the laws of the Constitution of the state of Utah and the United States, and according even more so to the laws of God and the rights of mankind, you don't get to decide at what point it's okay for you to violate that. It's never okay. Doing your job, you're still carrying on this mindset.
Any laws, or else I wouldn't have a job. I promise you that.
I promise you are. Okay. Because
That's just a difference of
you
opinion.
didn't. It's not a difference of opinion.
Well,
it's a matter of
I'm not
law.
here to argue with you, okay?
You've said that about 6 times, and I'm not really arguing. I'm trying to have a reasonable conversation. Which, to be fair, you're conversing with me.
Absolutely.
I want to. The other question is why are these guys running around looking like army men, intimidating me? How about the fact that these guys? Isn't it a threat to walk up to somebody with their hand on a gun as they approach you in an intimidating fashion?
I don't know. Were you intimidated?
Yeah, I was intimidated. Would you be intimidated if you were out with your family and somebody's walking up to your vehicle with a hand on a gun? So I'd like this guy to be detained and questioned for why he threatened my family.
Well, I'm not going to do that. So.
Is it not a crime if I do that to someone?
It depends on, I guess, how you do it.
What's your statute for threatening with a deadly weapon in this state?
Look, I'm not getting into this with you, Kate.
I'm reporting
I'm
a suspected crime to you. Are you saying that you're not going to respond to it?
And my suggestion to you would be to contact his supervisor and let him know what happened.
You are standing here on the street, and I'm reporting a suspected crime to you. And I believe we even have it on video. Would you like to review the video?
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you anymore, okay? You're free to go.
I've never been not free to go.
But you, well...
This guy had no authority over me.
Okay.
And you guys need to do some soul searching. You're not honoring your oath.
Okay.
You're convincing yourself. You need to sit down. You need to read the Constitution.
I do that every single night.
Then how
I
can
soul
you be
search
debating
every
with?
single night.
How can you be debating with me if you sit down and read
I'm
the
not
Constitution and
debating
soul
with you.
search?
I'm telling you what you need
No,
to do if you have problems with
you
what's
are
going on.
debating with me. You're excusing yourself. It's cognitive dissonance. You're saying I'm not going to enforce the law, but I'm still going to keep my oath.
Well, like I said, sir, if you have a problem, you can contact his supervisor, contact your elected
I'm
officials.
contacting the highest law enforcement authority in this county. That's who I'm contacting. I don't give a rat's
The
behind.
highest law enforcement would be the sheriff.
Exactly.
I'm not him.
Your
His name is
department.
Todd Bond.
Your department is the highest law enforcement. I don't really care what the park ranger guy's supervisor says. I'm not at the state park,
Well, then
and I don't
contact the
recognize
sheriff
his
and file a
authority.
complaint.
Is this how you handle when people report that they've been threatened and intimidated? Well, that's what I'm reporting.
Okay. Well, and I'm telling you.
I'm reporting a crime to you right now. I want you to deal with it.
Okay. And I'm telling you that you need to contact the sheriff and file a
Here,
complaint.
okay. Here's what's going to happen
What's
in the
gonna
long
happen
term.
is we're done for the night. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you.
No, I'm going to give you a final admonition, if it will, because I know we're not going to agree on this.
You
Okay,
have a good day. Okay.
sir. Gentlemen, what are your names? The other gentleman didn't, though. Here they are. They're running again.
Let's try and get a view of the license plate numbers.
So here's the deal, right? It's always the same, guys. They're not oath keepers. They're not defending the law. Sure, these guys are politer than the thugs up here. Look, they're taking off now. It's always the same thing. I'm almost always, let's get this DNR. Hey, let's get the DNR guy back here again. It's almost always the same situation, guys. They will run away. They will not be accountable. See, this guy up here, he's being arrested for who knows what. The sheriff didn't even bother to check. Are you kidding me? Oh, but I honor my oath. I read the Constitution. I soul search every night. Where's the righteous nation? Where's the love for neighbor? Are we seriously calling ourselves Christians with this kind of behavior? Are we calling ourselves righteous or for liberty? I mean, even if you're an atheist, deputy, are you serious? You think this is honoring your oath? You think this is protecting law? When does it end? It will not end. Folks, liberty's gone. We keep saying, oh, we're on the last leg, right? Only Trump can fix it, or only this can fix it. No, only Jesus can fix it. Only people standing up can fix it. Park rangers made up powers that they've decided that a corrupt state legislature outside the constitutions have granted them, who has the lawful authority in the county, is a duly elected official. This isn't a democracy. It's not an oligarchy. We're a republic. We're a government by the consent of the governed. The people of this state did not consent to park rangers stopping them on the state highway with guns and army clothes, guys. Government by the consent of the governed. It's called a republic. This guy didn't understand the barest hint. You notice the repetition games. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you. You just move on. You keep asking questions. You keep going. I've done what I can. I mean, it's not like I can stop them at this point from arresting the guy. They're not murdering him on the side of the road. At which point, yes, we have an obligation to directly intervene, right? So we got Yogi Bear out here making arrests. And you got a sheriff who doesn't even recognize that these guys are not equal to the county sheriff. These guys are not the authority, friends. Who's the authority with? The authority is vested in the people. Why? Because God gave us inherent rights, life, liberty, property, and the protection thereof. See, the Constitution is not what gives us rights. We have the rights. We have the liberties. They're common to all mankind. We possess them. They're ours. They're our birthright. And so those that are violating them are a criminal gang of tyrants that can be justly opposed. This sheriff refuses to do his duty. Okay? He refuses to look into what's going on. He refuses to address the fact that I'm being threatened by this officer. Here, this guy seems to be out of the car now. So we've now got, it looks like we got one sheriff back there. There's park ranger dude. Huge egos. The level of ego on these people is enormous. Now we've got a sheriff back here. He's still watching, which is probably a good thing, right? He's behind me. Probably keeping an eye on things. In reality, he's probably here to make sure I don't question too much. Almost all your officers now. I got a video, I'm going to post it soon. It's me talking to an ex-officer, and he stopped because he could no longer honor his oath and be an officer, folks. The good officers are quitting or they're fired already. Now, there might be people in the future who become good officers that then stand up, right? I don't withhold the idea that there could be a good officer, but today they're not good officers. We don't have good sheriffs that are upholding their oath in this country. Otherwise, we would see them standing up. It's very simple. The real law enforcement's job is to defend people's rights. That would have to mean arresting judges, corrupt federal agencies. Okay? Ryan, you said you can't serve man and God. That's exactly right. In fact, we were studying that in Scripture last night. You've got to be separate. It doesn't mean you don't love the people that you don't disagree with or help them, but it means you stand up. You cannot be the friend of the world unless you want to be the enemy of God. That's what the Bible says. See, these people are trying to be a friend with the tyrants, right? They're a friend of tyranny. You can't be a friend of tyranny and be a friend of liberty. Now, liberty, the author of liberty, is God. It's from him. Our rights are from him. Now, I know the atheists out there, you're like, oh, Gavin, stop with the God stuff. Look, this is what I believe. You don't have to believe the same as me. I still respect your rights. But our rights are still there. A park ranger is a peon. He shouldn't be out here on the roads. Hey, are you done yet? I'm not finished talking to this little guy. But they're doing my best to ignore me. What we're dealing with is the churches in America, they're not churches of Jesus, they're churches of government. Because to be standing up for Jesus, you have to defend what's right. You have to love your neighbor. Doesn't mean you're out trying to start a war. It means you're standing up. The churches aren't standing up and loving their neighbor. They're not coming out and being separate and making themselves the enemy of the world system. They're out there trying to befriend it. They're trying to be as easygoing with the system as possible. For the most part, the American Christian church is not a Christian church. They don't serve Jesus, they serve government. And for the most part, the atheists and the Buddhists and the Muslims and everybody else, just like the American Christian church, even though their beliefs differ, their rights are still the same, but they're just apathetic. The people do not understand the power that you have. The power of coming out here. These guys here, it disturbs them that I stop and ask these questions. It disturbs them that I do this. Sometimes they lose control and act like bullies, and sometimes they be polite. But it is disturbing. These men will lie awake tonight thinking about what I said to them. Most likely, they will justify their lawless behavior and their failure to defend people's rights in their mind because they've probably already done that long ago. So they'll continue to justify that. But now they're accountable because I've spoken words of truth to them. We're accountable to stand up for what's right and to love our neighbor. You can stop that one for now. I'll keep live streaming here, but if they come back, you can turn it on, but there's no need to have this super long video. So look, I'll probably post, this is a long video, I'll probably post at least the first part of this encounter on YouTube so that you can see the behavior of these park rangers when I first came up, before the sheriff got here, because I didn't live stream initially. The problem with live streaming is if it doesn't work, you might end up with no video. And so if I go out alone, because I'm not going to have my whole family getting out of the car out here, you know, I got to be careful.
Your phone's going to need power soon.
Okay, you can charge mine a little. So here we are. Here they are. I think I've done what I can here tonight. I've loved my neighbor to the best of my ability. This is the third encounter. You know, we think, oh, Utah is conservative, they're mild, they're constitutional. No, they're not. None of the sheriffs in Utah stepped up to defend the Bundys as the feds rode in. I even called some of them on the phone. I said, you're above the feds. Your job is to defend these guys. And they said, no, we have to obey the feds. Folks, it never ends. You don't have county sheriffs anymore. You don't have local police. You don't have law enforcement. You have federal enforcers in every level of your government. Every level of the government of America has been usurped by vain and self-serving men who seek power over liberty, money over justice, and control over principle. Every level of government has been overtaken by the lawless and by those too weak working for those lawless who refuse to stand up and love their neighbor as themselves and defend the native and the black and the white, the Christian, the Muslim, and everyone's rights equally. To stop those, whoever they may be and from whatever faction they may be, that are attacking the innocent, to defend the weak, the fatherless, and the widow. We do not have the courage because we do not have the repentance. We have lost our courage, America, and it won't be fixed by watching me live stream. We've got to get out there on the streets. You see, we did civil disobedience tonight because I refused to comply with Yogi Bear. I'm insulting Yogi Bear right now, aren't I? Because Yogi Bear was always committing civil disobedience against the park ranger. So here's this guy out from Jellystone ordering me around, and I didn't comply. I tried to be cooperative, but I didn't comply with his order. And so here it is. Illegal searches of vehicles, illegal detainments, illegal arrests, and sheriffs who will not defend the people that they work for. Judges who will absolutely find probable cause no matter how lawless the charge or how much the abuse was. Juries that will be coerced and controlled. Hand-picked to make sure they will defend the state. Witnesses, as we're seeing in Oregon today, that will be tampered with by prosecutors. Because that's exactly what's happening in the courts in Oregon and all over the nation. From people like the Bundys to Nevada, Jeff Winehouse, Jill Robertson, Schaefer Cox, the Fairs, Schuyler Barbeau. The list goes on and on and on. Every trial is illegal now. They all violate the Constitution. None of you have freedom anymore. Your children don't have freedom because we've let it go. I've still got two cars on the scene, and so I'm going to wait this one out a little longer. I know it's probably getting bored for you guys, but I try to watch it through to the end as much as possible, as much as reasonable. I mean, if they take the guy off, there's not much more I can do. But I did stay vigilant and make sure they didn't just shoot him in the head. Journalists like Pete Santilli and journalists down in the pipeline protest in North Dakota, where the property rights of the natives are being violated and the treaties are being violated. Fortunately here, guys, I've got easy blocking abilities for the trolls that seem to be popping up in here. Yeah, I'm seeing lists. Throw out the names of the political prisoners, guys. Repeat their names. I try hard. The Hammonds. I try to have them coming off my lips. I don't want to forget about them. Because what they try to do when you're in jail is they make you forgotten. They make you isolated. They make you helpless. David Fry. The list goes on and on. Name them. Share their stories. Don't let them be forgotten in a cage. You've got to keep speaking out, but you got to do more than speaking out. You know, people will say, Gavin, what are you guys doing? You're not doing anything, you're just talking. I'm out here on the street. I'm out here on the street doing the best I can. We all need to be doing it. If everybody every day, if once a week you did what I'm doing right now, it would turn America upside down. You need to build a forest. You need to make a tree. What is the forest? The forest is the resistance. A tree is a trio. You only need to find two people. Civil disobedience, activism, standing up, education, defiance of treason, principle, loving your neighbor. Build a tree. Build a tree. And then from that tree, build a forest. Because the forest is filled with power and resources. You can get lost in the forest. See, they can't cut down all the trees. They can't find us all. Sure, they might cut down a few of the tall trees, but they can't find us all. See, now the The officer's moving up here. He's trying to avoid me. Now, I could pull up behind him. I could also turn on the bright lights, but I might get harassed for that because the bright lights on this vehicle are extremely bright. I'm going to turn the headlights back on and fire the truck up so I don't kill the battery here. Look how long it took to start. So I want to keep some light on this guy. The only code of conduct I need is good and evil. The only code of conduct I need, and the only code of conduct I hold a sheriff or law enforcement or my neighbor to, is to love their neighbor, to defend what's right, to the Constitution, to the rule of law. Now this guy's leaving. Looks like he's taking off here. I want to have a dialogue with him, but he's going to run. See, now you got a tow truck. Think about this. You even got the tow truck driver, right? Oh, he's just making a living, but where's his money come from? Impounding cars that are illegally detained? Is that a principled way to make your living? Is that honorable? I don't know. Is the guy honorable who sold the gas to the gas chambers? Was he one of the good guys? Just a thought. Just a thought. Keep naming their names. You need to contribute. Guys, I posted Jeff Winehouse's fundraiser. He's trying to do a lawsuit and get himself out of prison. They gave him 30 years after police tried to murder him, and when they failed, they convicted him and locked him away for 30 years. When he was at trial, to make sure he didn't speak out, they put a shock collar on his thigh so they could electrocute him if he did something the judge didn't like. Similar to what we're seeing in court today in Oregon, as Ryan Bundy tries to cross-examine a witness and the judge says, "You're done, you've asked enough questions." See, there's no law in your courts. But I posted this fundraiser for Jeff Winehouse. In about a week, it's got $200 in donations. That's it. $200. $200. That's like what you spend on coffee every month. Are we willing to do anything or not? It's not a question of whether I support a sheriff. I support the law. There is no sheriff in this country who's defending the Constitution. Not one. The day that there becomes a sheriff who's defending the Constitution, this nation will be upside down. Judges will be being arrested. Forest Service will be being run out of town. Land will be restored to the people. You don't have a constitutional sheriff. So the question is, do you support a man or do you support the Constitution? Do you support law or do you support the idol of fake freedom and government and nationalism? Because that's what our nation has become. All lives matter. But here we are pointing the finger at all these factions. Oh, the Black Lives Matters are the bad guys, or this faction's the bad guy, or that faction's the bad guy. When the ones killing us on the side of the road are the guys that are supposed to be protecting us. The ones destroying families, tearing children away from their fathers and their mothers. Or our judges. Joe Arpaio, he's at the top of my list for unconstitutional sheriffs. In fact, I got a video. There was a live stream just like this one where I encountered his sheriffs when I was in Arizona, because I travel around looking for sheriffs that will uphold their oath. They wouldn't even answer a question about the Constitution as they took part in extortion and harassing and collecting. See, Sheriff Joe Arpaio and these politicians that you're rooting for, they say a few things to get us divided and fired up. They fuel our anger and our frustration, but they don't actually defend the Constitution. They're just playing faction, politics, and partisan moves. They're just tickling your ears for position and money and power. That's what they're doing. Let me turn that camera
On?
Yeah. So listen, what do we got now? We've got two officers back there now.
Was there two?
Yeah, another one pulled up. Uh-oh. There goes a guy with a burnout headlight. I hope they don't, like, chase him down and shoot him or something. It's insane. This country is insane. What we tolerate from our government is absolute insanity. Police kill 12 to 1,500 civilians a year on the side of the road. That's an army executing people, guys. That's not law enforcement. So here's the deal. The DNR guys have run. It looks like they arrested the guy. And I got the sheriffs to go up there. They wouldn't be accountable. They wouldn't answer the questions. And we've done the best we can. Now they're towing the guy's truck away. My family's tired. I've been out here for like an hour trying to do my best to be vigilant, make sure this guy didn't get abused. He's still getting abused, but they didn't kill him or anything like that. You've got state park rangers acting like thugs, like military army men in a battle zone on the side of the road, walking around with my family in the vehicle, approaching me with their hand on their gun like I'm some sort of a criminal because I dare to question them. You have lawlessness at every side. You have their sheriffs that say they're constitutional. They refuse to step up and honor their oath. They refuse to obey the Constitution. And they live in cognitive dissonance as they say that both the Constitution and the state laws are what they uphold. They cannot uphold both because the two do not work together. So it falls to us, guys. Defiance, civil disobedience, accountability, pulling the cameras out, speaking out, being bold. Do things like tonight. It's coming. It's coming. Nope, not Sheriff Clark either. Look, there's some of these sheriffs that may show promise. They may show some character. Maybe they're deceived. Maybe we should reach out to them. See, it's not about hate, because I don't hate people. It's about the fact that none of them are upholding their oath. Guys, if a sheriff was upholding their oath tomorrow, it would be national news. The sheriff would have the National Guard, the troops that claim to be oath keepers, descending on his county to arrest him if he tried to uphold his oath. You need to understand, you need to read your constitutions for what they say. You've got to stop looking at these guys that say Constitution or they do a couple of good things. Look at the Constitution and compare it to what your judges and your courts and your officers are doing, right down to the humble traffic ticket. It is lawless. It is treasonous, the acts that our federalized police are engaged in, our judges, our public officials, our politicians. They are terrorists, guys. Support someone all you want. I support the law, Sarah. I support the Constitution. I have nothing against Glenn Palmer personally. And I realized, sure, he's said some good things. He's done some good things. And I think we even tried to reach out. Now the sheriffs are taking off, right? They're leaving me on the side of the road. Once again, I'm the last one here. Me and my family.
That other vehicle, I think it was the DNR guy who pulled in front of the tow truck and then it pulled behind.
Oh, he went back.
Yeah.
He was hiding behind the sheriff. But listen, Glenn Palmer or whoever, right? I'm willing to talk to any of these sheriffs. I have an open invitation to sit down with a police officer and have coffee and talk about law and liberty. These guys got to come out and defend the law. They've got to choose, guys. So I'm not saying they're all lost. I'm not saying they won't stand up. I'm saying they're not today. So why are you supporting people? Why are you supporting people if they're not honoring and defending the Constitution? If you had a county in this nation where the Constitution was being defended, you'd have a place to go. That'd be a refuge right there. But you don't have it. And I challenge anybody. I'm looking. Prove me wrong, please. Please find me an officer, especially an elected sheriff, that will honor their oath. Because I can't find one. And I don't think you can either. Which is why you never show me one. How do we stand? We build a forest. We be the resistance. We love our neighbor. We seek God. We seek to do what's right. We do the best we can. America's gone, folks. It may very well be too late. We may already be forfeit. So we're not going to fix it by trying to be more powerful than the militarized government that has come to enslave us. We've got to beat them with wisdom. We've got to beat them with principle and character. We've got to stand up. You have anything important to say, Sai?
Stop obeying government.
Stop obeying government when what? When they violate our rights. If government is defending what's right, that's okay. But when they're not defending what's right, then they become the criminals. That's why we have the Bundys and all these political prisoners like Jeff locked away. Anybody else have anything to say?
They murdered Lavoie.
They murdered Lavoie. They murdered about 1,000 other people last year. It just keeps going and going. Why do you have a Kleenex on your head, kid?
It's baby white.
I get it.
You have anything to say, Anna?
No.
Guys, you gotta start calling them out. I'm gonna go here. I'm tired. I want to go home. This was not in my plans tonight.
Night.
But we loved our neighbor the best we could. See, I want my kids to be free. My kids are slaves because America won't stand up, and so are yours. So what's that worth to you? What's freedom worth? You're gonna have to decide. Go find a tree and build a forest. God help us.